Mr. Troy Cooke, thanks for coming on, my friend. Did you love that, the little clap at the start? That's my new thing from the last episode.
Yeah, it's good.
How you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
What's been going on? What's been going on in your life recently?
It's crazy period in my life at the moment. Moving in between two countries, businesses, dogs, relationships. It's pretty crazy.
You back fully for Christmas now?
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Spain are you based normally?
Normally based in Ibiza.
Living the best life.
Yeah.
What is it you do over there? You have a full-time business out there, don't you?
Yeah. In 2022, we opened a cafe in Santa Laria in Ibiza, and I was already living there before. Since then, just been based out there, building the cafe up. I'm sure we'll get into the history of how we got there. We're a coffee house with a kick. We serve juices, cafe obviously.
I love that. And you know Joe from home, I'm guessing, from down Surrey.
Joe's my default, oldest friend.
How long have you known him now?
Joe,
I'd say most of our lives. So I'd say I'm slightly older than Troy, so we're probably
just a year.
Yeah, maybe like a couple of years old. We would have known each other from.
So really?
For the last
That's
25 plus years.
Yeah, our parents went to university together.
In terms of mental health as a whole, obviously the podcast based around well-being, mental health mainly. Joe was my first guest, so it's kind of come full circle now. We're on. Is it episode 11 now? Episode 11, and then chat shows episode 6. Mate, that's gone quick. We're episode 1. Mate, we're flying through. Can you just tell everyone a bit about your story and the sort of relation you have to mental health and why you're on today?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's I would say I didn't necessarily have a completely conventional upbringing. My childhood was great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I had an amazing place to live, food on my table. But in terms of like a nuclear conventional family, I don't think that's what I had at all. So I think I first sort of experienced, the feeling of being slightly different from a very, very young age, with anxiety, going to school and not having the conventions, of a mother and a father, and the perfect, family home. Obviously been speaking with Joe, for quite some time about expressing myself and, talking about my side of things. And, he's doing what he's doing now is just amazing. And when he said, come and share your thoughts, and obviously I'm going to bite his hand off for that because it's just amazing to be able to sit here and, talk openly about my experience. And, Joe knows, full well about the challenges that I've gone through. That's where we are now.
Do you find it nice that you, in a way, obviously what people have gone through is really tough, but do you find a bit of, comfort in that, knowing you've both gone through it and you've both been best friends growing up, and that allows you to be stronger in a way?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of Troy, but I just want to say like how proud I am of him. I mean, it's like he's like a brother to me and like a best friend growing up. I think Troy and I first spoke about our mental health journeys when I first sort of came out, as it were, about sort of 5+ years ago. And Troy, I think, was just trying to find his feet in that sense. I think Troy's battled for a lot of his life, but I think the last couple of years, I mean, I can't speak for him, but I think the last couple of years has really come to a head, and he's really managed to sort of hone in on what it is he needs to do to sort of make himself better and take ownership of his mental health. And I can't be prouder of him to come on here and share his stories, which we'll get onto in a minute. But just from a personal point of view, I just want to thank you for coming on, mate. Really brave you to come on here and share your story. So Have
you found it hard sort of talking about it publicly as a whole and like doing things there? Because this is what we talk about quite a lot, is our first episode, if you actually like watch it back, we're both like really struggling in a way to kind of talk about it, because it's the first time publicly, like throughout the back of my mind the whole time I was just thinking, are people just going to judge me for this? Like, what's going on? But now we're at this point where it's actually benefited us massively, being able to talk openly, meet people like yourself, meet people like Annalie last week, Alex Bowen, like having all these people on. It's been great. Have you found it hard sort of being more open about your mental health, whether that's in terms of talking about your story, which we're going to get onto very soon, with family, with friends, or is it kind of, been quite nice being able to be open to people like Joe and be like, this is what I'm going through, and knowing that you have someone there to, listen and really appreciate you for doing that?
Yeah, I mean, talking with Joe is one thing because he's just been so understanding and open since the beginning, since day dot. You know, he's the sort of guy that I've always picked up the phone to. I've always called him, and he's always answered or always got back to me. So it's really, really easy, you know, to talk to him. It's very rare to have a best friend, you know, who can listen like that.
Yeah.
But just now in this environment, even like the thought of trying to like express myself now, like my mind is sort of racing a little bit because suddenly I feel really, really anxious to be able to like talk about it. If it was me and Joe in a room right now, I have no issue at all. But it's sort of, you know, going out there, putting this online and stuff, like it's a very, very difficult thing. So I'm actually just sort of processing it all right now.
Yeah, it is quite scary, especially when there's like cameras and like bright lights and stuff. Especially the first few times, I was like really dreading actually sort of doing the podcast, especially hosting it. There's a few times when I was like, is this what I kind of want to do? Like just keep putting this online. But then I think the way I sort of look at it now is the amount of response we've had from personal DMs of people who are friends of mine that had no idea were struggling with things. They're like, just wanted to drop you a private line saying, listen, I'm going through the same thing. I really appreciate that. That kind of motivates us now, doesn't it, to keep this going? And I hope there's something like that for you, where you look in your DMs and you see an old message from a friend and you're like, oh wow, I never knew that guy was going through girl was going through the exact same thing I was. And it's sort of like a reassuring feeling knowing that you've helped them in a way.
I think just being able to share stuff and sharing your story and just coming to terms with it, I think that can be quite a cathartic, sort of therapeutic experience. I know I found that after the first episode. I thought just by coming on here and sharing like-minded stories that millions of other people can relate to, and I know that Troy's situation will be very similar to that. There'll be thousands of people, in our case hundreds of followers, that are going to watch his story and go, wow, it's amazing how a guy could just be that open and just be completely sort of transparent about his experiences. And there'll be many, many people like with you, me and you and Anna-Lee and Alex who'll just go, wow, it's so cool those guys can just go on there and have a sort of really nice sort of chilled open conversation about what their experiences are, and you know, and then there'll be many people that can relate to it. So I can't wait to get stuck in, mate.
What you touched on at the start was family problems, anxiety, depression as well. Is that something you've gone through?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't know how to necessarily diagnose it.
Yeah.
And I think there's, you know, it's not black and white with that stuff. Like I said, I had an amazing childhood. I went to a great school, had some great friends. My dad's an amazing person, and I have no complaints really. Like there's so much, you know, actual shit in the world, and I had food on my table all the time. But in terms of like a conventional family, it was never the case for me. So, you know, it created a little bit of instability, you know, especially as I got older.
When you say you didn't feel you had a conventional family, what exactly do you mean by that? Because obviously I know your background, but for those listening and watching might not. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I had my dad was around, you know, he was, you know, a very strong figure in my life, you know, always there. My mum passed away when I was 6. And I had, you know, nannies and, you know, people I called mum, and, you know, people were coming in and out of the house looking after me and stuff like that. I had some stability with, you know, people who were always there, you know, Sally and these kind of people. But I had 2 older brothers, stepbrothers. My parents were, you know, divorced. My mum died, a few houses in between, moving around a little bit. So yeah, in terms of the sort of insecurity, and I definitely did experience a lot of that, and it, you know, set some negative foundations for, you know, trying to, you know, make your way in life, and yeah, definitely created a bit of anxiety with school and, you know, doing normal things.
What did you find it like? Because I've never moved house. I've been like always in the same place. I'm generally curious. Did you think that affects you moving house at a young age? And, you know, you said you were in 2 or 3 different houses. Do you feel like that's affected you in the long run, or is that not really bothered you?
I say the moving house materialistically is, you know, it can be challenging, but the real challenge is the instability. It's in one family, in one house, you're with one set of family members, and then you move, and then you're with another, and then you're with another. So it's the changing of dynamic of the family, which is the real issue, rather than actually moving to, you know, materialistically into a different house. You it can create a bit of instability. The houses were great. There's no complaints, running water, food, everything was good. But, when you take yourself out of that environment and then suddenly, your brothers aren't there in the house or your mum's not there, it's difficult. You go to a new school. Yeah, it's just, it creates a bit of insecurity, instability with your normal life.
Trying to make new friends as well at these schools as well is tough. Do you feel like there was a certain way you coped with the sort of loss of your mum or, your brothers not being there in certain aspects?
Yeah.
Was there a way you coped with that, or looking back at it, or a way you kind of cope now from that experience?
No, not at all. And I think that's what, pardon my French, but really fucked me up for, many years, because there was no coping with, losing a mum. I was 6 years old, so you can't really process what the role of the mum is at that age, especially when they're sick. She was sick for a long time. So, but then when that's taken away from you and you sort of just crack on with life, things were slightly different. It wasn't so long ago, but things were slightly different back then. So, yeah, I think, in terms of coping, the main issue was not having the mechanisms in place to cope with something like that.
In terms of like, by mechanisms, you mean like talking, maybe that was like a therapy type thing, or sort of having the foundations to, be open about how you're feeling? Is that what you mean by sort of different then to it is now?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, death is this very, very scary thing. It's fear.
Yeah.
It's so intense. Like the thought of death and people dying is horrible. But it's because it's a really, really hard subject to talk about,
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt, did you think when you lost mum, did you feel like the people were in place for you to talk about that kind of thing with going forward into your sort of, certainly at the age of 6, but certainly into your teenage years, into your sort of young adult years? Do you feel like there was an open forum for you to talk to, say, your dad or your brothers or your sister, obviously, or not?
I think they make themselves available, and they always say, "Oh, I was available" and all that stuff. But as a 6-year-old, my sister was 9 at the time as well. You got to be nudged like right to the edge to get it all out. Whether that's like a crazy tantrum or like crying, intensely, or screaming or whatever it is. It doesn't just come out on its own. So in that situation, when you lose a parent, it really does require, when you're that age specifically, it really does require somebody to grab you by the hand and just say, look, this is the cards you were dealt. Like, you got to deal with this. This is life. This is what happens. But giving you that chance to sort of mourn and grieve openly, it's really important. So I'm not sure that I necessarily did have that, but growing up, as I got older, I realized that there are a lot of people to talk to, and better late than never, really.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think being older now, more mature in a way, especially the past few years, are you 28 now, 29?
Yeah, 28. Yeah.
So going through approaching 30, is that something you're trying to sort now in a way? Is like you said, better late than never, being able to talk. Are you finding that's helping you a lot? Whether that's talking about how your feelings, or I read this study the other day, and it was, is it better to talk about it, or is it better just to forget about it and not open a wound? Is that the thing?
Yeah, like rip the band-aid
yeah,
off,
rip the band-aid off. What's your view on that? You feeling that it's helping you a lot? Because I know it helps us massively being able to talk about it, and I'm actually the opposite of, if I don't take that band-aid off and address it, it's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's just looking back, like the impact not having a mum has had on certain things that I've done, growing up. It's pretty significant. So it's such old news now that it's really, really hard to attach much emotion to it. It's very rarely that I feel sad about it. In terms of ripping the Band-Aid off, I think the Band-Aid is off. It's just about whether, I feel comfortable talking to someone about, what happened, and, losing someone. It makes you quite exposed. So I can have really, really open conversations with my girlfriend and Joe, and very, very small amount of people. And I saw you said something in your podcast when you were like, when you're a guest, you can sort of unload. It feels like taking these opportunities to sort of unload as much as you can in a short period of time, you know, it does give you some relief. So
Yeah, it does.
in that sense, yeah, if you can find an opportunity to talk about it with people that you're comfortable with, then take that opportunity
That's
by
the
all
best
means.
thing. And get a point of view from them as well.
Yeah,
Obviously,
100%.
no one can experience what you've gone through, but I think
Yeah.
just by having someone listen is normally the best. That's what I always say about my girlfriend is just when I have a problem. I think I said this to you when we did our second one. And I was like, I feel like I don't want to burden her by telling her these things. And you were like, you're not burdening her. You know, they love you and they're there to help you. They're not going to, you know, be like, oh, it's fine, you'll forget about it. They're there to listen and they help you. And when you actually have proper people who do care about you, I think it helps massively, especially when you fully talk about
100%.
it.
I also think it's keeping it relative. I think, you know, Troy's girlfriend's problems are relative to her, and that's not going to harm Troy. That's not going to have a bearing on Troy's life. Therefore, getting him or getting her to talk to Troy about her problems isn't a problem for Troy, because it's not putting any weight on his life. So I think it's learning to realise that what you're saying isn't going to hold that person back and have a impact on them. And I think Troy's in the same boat. Now he's found a few people that he's able to share his thoughts with. He's having a bit of a dark day, and he's able to open up to whether it be me or his girlfriend or whoever, Cheska, his sister. Then that's the best medicine in my opinion. And also it's square pegs around holes sometimes. What I can help Troy with sometimes isn't necessarily what his girlfriend could, and vice versa. So I think it's having a few people who you can open up to at times. I think it's really, really important. I'm glad he's found that.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. What advice would you give to someone who's gone through what you've gone through, whether they're watching or listening? Because I know a lot of the time people do tune in because they can relate to the problem we're talking about. If someone has lost a parent, because I know a few people watching this from my friend side personally have done. They've lost a mum, they've lost a dad. What advice would you give them from what you've learned now at age 29?
I mean, I think there's two really important lessons. Firstly, the pain that you feel, you know, it comes in waves, it comes and goes. You know, nothing's permanent. You know, your happiness is temporary, your sadness is temporary. So if you can see that it comes in ebbs and flows, like it becomes much easier to deal with. You know, time heals everything. And then the other one is finding the opportunities to talk as much about it as possible. You know, it's a very common thing. Everybody has their own, you know, scenarios, but you know, we're all on this world together. We have so many similar stories.
Yeah.
Finding that one person or two people that you can just, you know, unload on, it's fucking good, man. It just, like, you know, takes a load of pressure off.
For sure. And now, on the point of Spain, which we talked about before, how long ago did you move there?
I've been in Spain, moved there in 2020.
2020. How's that been? Was that after COVID? Before?
Yeah,
COVID?
I literally moved there 2 days after the lockdown happened. So I literally just got a flight straight away, and I found an Airbnb, and I moved in, and then they locked down the city. So
what was the reasoning behind that? Just you needed to just get away with a fresh start type thing, or was that more like a planned? I've always wanted to be in Spain.
No,
I like it there.
No. Joe will know. You know, Joe can tell you my life has always been. There's no plan really. It's always been super spontaneous, which is
that's good. I like that.
Not the best way to approach things. But I was living and working in Thailand.
Yeah.
And the best time of my life, the best country I've ever lived in. Yeah, just incredible.
What sort of like relaxed culture type thing?
Just the people, the scenery. You know, you wear one pair of shorts for 6-7 months. It's like it's just like no place you've ever been. You know, and obviously COVID came in, and you know, we got the call from the government, from the Home Office saying, you know, you guys have got to come back from Asia now. Like this is getting hairy. So I booked a flight back, and then. Yeah, arrived in England, and it was raining and it was miserable, and everybody looked really, really depressed, and everybody was talking about this, you know, this pandemic coming in. So I booked a one-way flight to Mallorca, because I knew I wanted to be on an island as far away from the pandemic as possible, and that's how I ended up in the Balearics in Ibiza in Mallorca.
In the sun as well.
Yeah, a little bit of sun.
Jealous. Yeah, I wish I did that. Looking back, and it just disappeared. I was just sitting in the house all day, like, oh. So
tell us a little bit about, for the listeners that don't know about you or watching this, about how you managed to set up the business that you have right now, and obviously what happened more recently, obviously to the business itself.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been wanting to open up my own. The original idea was like a restaurant, like a late night restaurant.
Yeah.
And COVID sort of shifted my beliefs about, you know, how businesses should operate, and waking up earlier and going to bed earlier, like it became a real important thing for me to be able to, be in bed by like 10, 11 p.m., and shut off from the world. Because before, I was, working in the nightlife industry, so it was a lot of late nights, and it definitely did take its toll. So the original plan was obviously to open a restaurant. I met my business partner in the UK, and he said, look, we've got this opportunity to do this coffee business. Let's open a cafe. And I said to him, look, I'm not going to, put any money in unless we do it in Ibiza, because it's the most amazing place, the Balearics. That's where you can build a proper business out of, with the right culture, being in the sun. It was the right thing to do. So we opened our first branch in Ibiza, in Santa Laria, and it was going, I wouldn't say swimmingly, but it was going good. And we expanded the site after about 6 months. So, we have a really, really strong customer base.
Nice.
And then this year, August 14th, we had a really catastrophic fire, which caused a lot of damage to both floors. So,
the whole restaurant, cafe, but
two floors on a Monday, in middle of August as well. So we were doing some really good revenue. It was full swing of summer. It's a seasonal place, and then we had a fire. So it was 18 months of an uphill battle to get to a point in August where we were sort of, I wouldn't say cruising, but we were we were finding our gear, and then this fire happened, and
What's that like mentally when you've put 18 months of work, money, in a place you've only been living a couple of years, into arguably your dream with your business partner, and it just burns down over what was it, like a gas? It
was actually a mistake, to be honest.
How was that mentally? That must have been quite frustrating for you.
The reality is like, the lessons you learn from opening your business is like no other. It's better than any school, university you could ever go to. It's seriously intense, and a business brings out the best and the worst side of you. It really, really does play to all your your strengths and weaknesses, and brings out all your characteristics. So, for 18 months pushing this thing uphill, not taking a salary, like putting every single pound I ever had into this business to try and make it work, and then for it to be taken away like that, and pretty much left with nothing, not being able to pay rent, not being able to pay phone bills and all this stuff. It's intense. Like I remember the day it happened, going in and sweeping the water, because the firefighters, they flooded the place, so sweeping the water off, and it was just this weird eerie silence, and I can't ever describe that feeling. It was like it was traumatic. It felt you're grieving. It's almost like when you lose something or someone, whether that's an animal or anything, and it really did feel like that. It was a weird silence, and it was sort of like trying to collect yourself and figure out what the next route is. But I was grieving for about a week, 2 weeks after that.
And you were back. Is it back up and running now?
No, it's closed for now. We couldn't open again this year. We've got some amazing plans for the new year, but we closed the one in Ibiza. We'll open it again in March, but we just have to take our time with that one.
What's it like in terms of being in Spain for your mental health? Because this is something I'm generally curious about. Is I feel like a lot of people in the UK are just very depressed, very down. I mean, the weather's awful. It's dark at like 4 o'clock at the moment. What's it like actually coming back to the UK from living in Spain? Is there a big difference in like how people feel out there? I mean, what I saw on your Instagram, it just looks amazing all the time. Like, it's sunny, you're next to the beach, like it's a great life, everyone looks healthy. And then you come back to the UK, in my opinion, from if I've been on holiday and come back to UK, I look at everyone's just pale.
Get me back to Spain.
Yeah, and I'm just like, wow, like you don't realise it until you've gone away somewhere for like maybe 2 weeks, and you come back and you're tanned, and everyone else just looks really miserable, pale, and like it's dark at 4 o'clock. What's it actually like being out there?
Well, I take it back a little bit. Like growing up, had these challenges and struggles, and one of the major things was just looking out my window and just seeing darkness and grey, and I just thought it was really shit. I really did. Like every day, I remember just getting the train and being wet and seeing people's faces. I just thought this can't be the life. So I always tried to find. I moved to Sydney to live there for a bit. I always tried to find places which is sunny. And that's like something I've always tried to, talk to my nephews about, or any person who's younger than me, who's just, leaving school now. Like home is not home where you think home has to be. Like you can go out there and find a new place, especially if the sun does it for you. There's a lot of countries and a lot of places out there where you can be outside most of the time, and the impact it has on your happiness is crazy. Just the biology of being out in the sun and getting the vitamin D, in your hair and in your skin, like it's
so long.
It's facts,
Just look how much more healthy he
It's
looks
mad,
compared to us. I'll probably go watch on the camera being like, this guy just looks like a different person to everyone else.
No, what I would say about Troy saying is I used to, correct me if I'm wrong, mate, but I used to think Troy was sort of running away from his responsibilities a little bit by going all these travels. I've known Troy for forever. And when I used to see him going to Asia and Australia, I thought when Troy goes through something bad, I thought he's just running away. But actually, the more I've got to know him more recently, and I think actually he's just born to be in the sun. He's born to be by the ocean, with next to the waves in a sort of not so built up, dark, dingy place. And the more I've got to know him and seen him settling in Spain, as you can see, that's just what he's born for. Yeah, home is where the heart is, and his heart is by the sea. It's by the water. It's in the sun. That's where he's meant to be. It's not meant to be in a tower block flat in London, as nice as that might have been from growing up in London. But like that's just where he's supposed to be, and that's what my fault was judging him for that, thinking he's just running away, but actually it's just where he's meant to be.
Yeah. I love it. I was listening to just before I forget, I was listening to Gary Brecker. You heard of Gary Brecker, the 10X guy? Have you heard of him? He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was saying how the human body is supposed to be outside 85% of the time, and it's supposed to be inside 15%. But at the moment, especially in the UK and the US, people are inside 97% of the time and outside 3%. And he was like, that's not how your body is supposed to be. And all jokes aside, just from knowing you like 45 minutes, there's such a big difference in like how we all look, and everyone behind the scenes to compare how you look if you're outside all the time in the sun. Like you look like 10 times healthier than all of us. It's not rocket science,
Thanks,
is
Tom.
it? I think it's just like, I just think like being in the UK is just like I came on before is very like dark. It's very wet. You can never really get a good flow if you want to go outside. One day it's snowing, the next it's 30 degrees out. And I think that's actually quite a negative in terms of mental health as a whole, especially for me. Like we talked about seasonal disorder, is it?
Yeah,
seasonal affective disorder. That's something I think I'm struggling with quite a lot, is especially when the clocks went back, I really struggled with my routine and getting in a good mental health like space, if you could say that. And at the moment, I've really struggled with getting to grips with it. It was only like 3-4 weeks ago, I think it was, the clock change. I could be wrong. But I think, like I said before, being in a country like that, the community of people as well, everyone my favourite place is Lisbon, which obviously is not in Spain, but everyone on the streets is happy. Everyone's just, it feels like a community. And I feel like when you go to places like Ibiza, whether it's Lisbon, in my point of view, being part of that community makes me happy. And my mental health is always better when I come back or I'm there. Have you felt like being part of that community in Ibiza or being part of that community when you're in Thailand has helped you sort of cope in a way? You talked about not coping very well, but I actually think in a way that kind of is coping, being part of a community, being in a place you love, waking up to these amazing views in the sun. Do you think that's helped you being part of a proper community like that?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing that I can really vouch for is just being outside. Like any excuse to be outside, so you can take inspiration and find energy from being outside. Trees, plants, whatever it is. It's so important. It's one of the main reasons why I got a dog, is because I just felt like going outside, just walking aimlessly was really, really challenging for me. But with my dog, like we adventure and we go see things, and that was one of the reasons why I love Thailand a lot. Pre-dog, I was walking around everywhere in the same swim shorts like for 6-7 months straight. It just being out and adventuring, how us humans are supposed to be. It's our nature to explore, to adventure, and walking to and from the restaurants and bars and whatever the gym. It's so important. You don't get the same stimulation walking down the high street, to your gym, to your house when it's raining and it's grey. But getting outside as much as you can.
Love that. Thinking about the gym, what impact has being physically active done for you? Because I know that you and I speak a lot about this, and you growing up, Troy was a very talented footballer, but gym was never really a thing for him. What kind of impact has joining the gym and being physically active had on you the last couple of years?
I I realized I've got a huge, this is only in the last 18 months since having a business, I realized I got a huge chink in my armor, and that's aggression. Like I have some real issues with aggression and handling certain situations, and I think that's various different reasons from growing up, and I think a lot of people experience that as well. They don't know how to channel their anger, and certain things trigger them, and I found certain things were really, really triggering me, and there was no healthy way to combat those, or I was going down the wrong route. So the gym was just for me to just escape, go and put my headphones in and just smash out a few sets. I'm still waiting for that gym routine, by the way. 3 years of I asked him September 2020. I'll never forget it.
Still waiting.
He's planning it. It's really
better be a fucking good session.
We always talk about it, don't we? That's sort of like, that's why we gym. That's why, in a way, that's why I play rugby. That's why, I guess that's why you play rugby as well. It's like, that's an out for me, and I go home and I know I'm things aren't going to bother me as much. And it does scare. I took a hit on the head on Saturday, got concussion from it. That does really bother me. It's just like the idea that I might not be able to play something, whether it's even for a few weeks, because I do become a different person. Every time I've had a shoulder surgery or an ankle surgery, I become quite nasty to be around, whether that's not like in a malicious fighting way, just like very on edge all the time, very snappy, very aggressive.
You need to get stuck into something.
Yeah, you do. I really think you do, whether that's gym. Well, I love the CrossFit stuff as well. I think more my competitive side is like looking at like high rocks and things like that when I'm not playing, being part of that environment where you are channeling your aggression in somewhere. So when it comes to business, you have a level head and you're not reacting off how you feel, you're reacting off what actually needs to be done. I think that's so important.
Definitely.
Coming I wanted to come back to the point before I forget, on your family. It's Christmas now, and Christmas is a very tough time. I had quite a few facts and figures here I'll share in a second about Christmas and families as a whole. Do you find Christmas quite a tough time, coming back to the UK, or is it something that you actually, enjoy, fully embrace and enjoy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Christmas is this weird event where it's like so family orientated, and then for those who haven't got the perfect family setup, I honestly remember growing up and seeing like these perfect family Christmas holidays, like the perfect, the Christmas day, opening presents, the Boxing Day, and all that stuff, and I was always like, I want that. Like that's the perfect scenario for me. We typically don't do a family Christmas together. It's not usual. I'm always away in various places. This year actually is the first time that I'll be with my sister and my old man and my little sister. But it's a very, very weird time for people. I find it can bring out a really, really awful part of you, which feels very, very, longing for something that will never happen. So it's very, very tricky.
I feel like Christmas is a tough time. So some of the stats I have here is a survey found that over 60% of people feel like spending time with family is the best part of Christmas, with around 1 in 3 people report feeling more lonely during the Christmas season, particularly those that have lost loved ones or are far from family. I feel like it's this sort of like either or. There doesn't seem to be much of it in between. It's either like Christmas can be stressful if you lost a loved one, if you've gone through a divorce, if you not close with your family, if you moved away, and on the other hand it can be seen as like great. I think it's one of those weird times where, like I said before, you're either very happy or it's a stressful time, especially financially as well. A lot of the Christmas, I found for myself, especially buying gifts this year, I was like financially quite stressed out, and that's not good for my mental health as a whole. Like it's in the back of your head, that whole financial stress of it. But what's your kind of view on, the finances behind Christmas? 30% of people report financial stress is causing them to actually not enjoy Christmas as a whole. Arguably 1 in 3 people. That's pretty tough to go through at the moment as well.
I mean, look, realistically, if you're a proper family and you've got your cards on the table, people know your situation. You can just send a message and say, look, I'm not liquid right now. but the pressure of, you know, keeping up this charade of, you know, happy families, I don't think it's real. I think you've got to be completely honest. Presents and Christmas, it's just a really, really weird concept.
Yeah.
The whole thing, to me, honestly, it's very, very peculiar. I get it as a gesture. It's amazing. You can do sentimental things for really, really cheap. They can be, you know, time consuming, but, you know, you can create photo albums as well for 5, 6, 7 quid or whatever it is. I've set the rules with my missus this Christmas as well. We said, look, we're not liquid. We can't get each other these nice, expensive gifts. And, you know, last year she got me an Apple Watch, and you know, it's just not possible this year. So we're doing a sentimental gift for each other.
Love that.
And that's it.
Love that. Coming back to the facade around family, and I know this is very close to your heart, is talking about love and loss and grief is something, again, far closer to home for you, and more recently is Justin. So for those that don't know about Justin, tell us a little bit about, you know, what happened to you with your family and Justin itself, obviously, around that situation.
Yeah, Justin was my older brother, step brother, half brother. So this from my mum's side, same mum. And then you know, in 2018, he took his own life. So it's a very, very weird, even now, just trying to talk about that. I don't think I've ever said that sentence, which is very, very strange.
Yeah.
Just a crazy event which you never expect to happen. It's, you know, that's a sort of life-changing thing that, you know, you keep with you forever. Justin, you know, I've got another older brother, Umar, Justin, my sister, and then my little sister. But out of everyone, I think, you know, it's fair to say that the connection between me and Justin, you know, was really, really strong. People have challenged it and said, why him? Like, why were you so close with him? But I think it's really hard. Sometimes you can't really describe connection. Sometimes connection is just connection. You know, how sometimes you meet your soulmate and you just vibe. So yeah, I mean, Justin was sort of my person. You know, he was the person I wanted to be around all the time, the person I looked up to. So it was a pretty tough pill to swallow.
How's that been, sort of dealing with it? You said that was the first time you properly talked about it, is in a way, or said that sentence as now. How does that kind of feel, you know, addressing that? Oh, it's 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
How is it feeling 5 years on from that sort of situation? How's your mindset changed around it?
It's weird. It's caught me off guard a little bit, because you sweep these kind of things under the rug. Time moves, and you learn to live. You learn to just continue with your life. But the reality is that, like, there's a huge part of your life which is not there anymore. So there's moments, you know, when you really, really feel it, but the show must go on is like a phrase that I always say to myself.
Sorry, go on.
I don't necessarily think it's the most healthy way to deal with things. It's a really good question. And, you know, 5-6 years, even you just saying that now, I can't really believe that that's how much time has passed. You know, it feels like yesterday that, you know, we were laughing on the phone together, but then at the same time, it's like a whole lifetime you've lived without them now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say we spoke. I thank you for that, by the way. That's obviously really hard for you to talk about. So I think we speak about therapy a lot on this, and I've been very open about my struggles, and Tom as well, about our journeys through therapy, and about sort of kissing a few frogs to find the right one. I think that's what the phrase I used in the first one is. What role has therapy had on you? Because I know that you were seeing someone for a while in a therapy realm. How that manifest in you, or what kind of therapy did you go down, all that kind of thing?
It was important at the time to unload as much as possible. I actually don't think therapy is for everyone. I really don't, and I think it worked for me temporarily, but
was that face to face with one person, or was it
face to face? It's I think channeling your own thoughts and, you know, working on yourself is really, really important. I think the therapy really, really does help to bring out, bad situations and a lot of grief shortly after. The irony is, like, in the last 3 months, I found a method which has just completely changed my life, and my friend just suggested to me after the fire, actually on a whim. He just said, "Look, you're at rock bottom now. Just get yourself." He actually bought me a book, and it was an empty book, and he just said, "Just write some stuff down." And the irony is that this has been the most helpful thing for me. I think everybody's different, but having a book and just writing my shit down has really, really helped me. I wish I knew, or I wish I used that at the time, 5-6 years ago. That would have been the best outlet for me. Yeah, it's funny that I've only just discovered that now, at 28 years old.
Better than ever.
Does it feel like a release? That's journaling, right? Yeah. Does that feel like a release when you do it?
My girlfriend calls it journaling.
No.
I hate it. My little pink fluffy pen.
Does that feel like
on
a
the
release?
bed with my legs in the air? No, it's you know what? It's actually I actually call it scripting. I don't know if you heard of scripting before, but I talk about how, like, I want to feel. I talk about where I want to be, and I always reference, not having a mum and losing my brother like that, and not having the most straightforward family life. And I always reference how I can change I can't do anything about the cards I was dealt, but the only thing I can do is now change my decisions. I have full control over my decisions and how to shape my life and create the things that I want to create. And that's why I call it scripting. Other people call it scripting. And I learned how to do it, and it's about where I want to be. And I want, the family, the conventional family, the mum, the dad, husband and wife, the kids, the stability. That's what I want. I don't want any of this shit anymore. That's why I found the scripting really, really relieving, because it gives me so much hope that I can actually affect and impact, how I want my life to be.
Last thing we wanted to talk about was what's some of the main, lessons you've had from 2023 as a whole. Now we're coming to the end of the year.
The important lessons are patience in a lot of scenarios. Patience is really, really important when you're dealing with tricky situations. And yeah, just taking a step back and just, thinking there's a reason why all of this is happening. It allows you to plan and, structure your life in the way that you need to react to, certain situations. But I really do think, for me personally, patience was something that I needed to learn.
What would yours be?
I'd say probably being less hard on myself when I make mistakes. I'm used to be very, very hard on myself. I probably still am a little bit. And taking a step back and slowing down a little bit, I think, as well. Taking stock sometimes, which I'm probably not very good at doing. But yeah, probably those two.
Love that. I think mine would probably be just backing your intuition. Like, yourself better than anybody. And I'd always let outside noise sort of dictate what I was doing. But if I have a vision, just go for it. And when you go for it, just go balls to the walls. Like, don't listen to what everyone else is saying. Everyone's going to tell you, oh, you could do this better, but no one's been in your shoes. No one knows what you're going through or why you're doing it, what's the purposes. Yeah, trust your gut. That would probably be my main one. The next question I wanted to ask was, going to 2024, do you have any goals set for 2024 or where you want to be by the end of the year? Or is that kind of spontaneous, as you said, the rest of the stuff you're doing is at the moment?
Well, I think you take certain actions and then you end up in different paths. But the main goal is to be obviously super liquid, having a lot of freedom. With my girlfriend, I want to be able to spend a lot of time with her, my dogs as well, and that runs with having a really, really smooth operating business, and yeah, just getting everything back up and running. Really. We've got amazing plans for Naked Ground. Naked Ground's the coffee company for the new year. A lot of it is based in the UK as well. So yeah, just having that really, really efficient and working smoothly is where I want to be.
Love that. Probably really honing in on my business, making it slightly more financially feasible for myself to sort of do a bit more and have the financial freedom. I think a bit like what Troy said. And then secondly, getting out there and getting a summer job working for Naked Ground, I think. But after what it sounds like working out there, I think I'm going to get
You're hired.
I love that. I'll be sick. 2024. To be fair, I've asked a question, and I wouldn't say I've even sat down and had a proper think about it. I'm quite spontaneous like that in a way. It's like I feel like next week I could meet someone and that would change my whole trajectory on the way I go, whether it's in business or my personal life. But I say for 2024 as a personal goal is to keep doing what I'm doing and not backtrack. You know, I've started something, whether it's this podcast, whether it's, you know, the mental health sort of business that I want to start in a few months' time. Go for it. Like, I'm at this stage in my life where I can go for it. And I feel like, you know, a lot of the regrets I have from when I was a bit younger have been when I've half-assed things or when I've, you know, not fully committed. I think my goal for 2024 is, you know, it's cringe to say, but being the best version of myself and just going for it. And if I do mess it up, it gives me the peace of mind that, you know, I gave it my best shot. That's probably going to be my main goal.
Love that.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Troy. Appreciate it, brother.